Investigators in Brazil now realize that they are dealing with something very unusual.
A mid-air collision is a very rare event in aviation, and it should not have happened with two very modern new aircrafts.
The situation becomes more complicated when investigators study a critical document, the Legacy's flight plan.
Flight plans are filed by using a standard form which is the same all over the world. The form will contain the flight number as well as requested flight level or altitude.
According to this document, when it collided with the GOL flight, the executive jet wasn't expected to be at 37,000 feet. The Legacy's flight plan called for the jet to fly at 37,000 feet only until it reached Brasilia, then descend to 36,000. But the collision took place 850 kilometers northwest of Brasilia, well past the point where the Legacy was supposed to descend. So why hadn't the Legacy followed its flight plan?
The flight plan calls for you to descend to 360 at Brasilia. Why didn't you?
We weren't told to. Before we took off, we were cleared for 370 all the way to Manaus. That's what we did, sir. I don't know where you're getting the information from. Yeah, we followed the rules.
We were not told to descend, and we did not descend.
Colonel Ferreira needs to check the story that the crew is telling. He wants to know exactly what they were told by controllers when they took off from São José dos Campos.
November 600 X-ray Lima, ATC permission for Manaus, flight level 370.
The Legacy's last instruction was to fly all the way to Manaus at 37,000 feet. The pilots obeyed that instruction even though it differed from their flight plan.
Air traffic control always can deviate from the flight plan because they have best knowledge of the actual traffic situation.
Leaving Manaus, the GOL jet was also cleared to fly at 37,000 feet. Both planes were assigned the same altitude by controllers at opposite ends of the country.
Once we were certain that both planes were flying at the same altitude, we knew for sure there would be a lot to investigate on the side of air traffic control.
Ferreira turns his attention to conversations between controllers in Brasilia and the Legacy jet. The cockpit voice recorder from the Legacy gives investigators a remarkably detailed look into what happened on the private jet. The brand new Legacy jet has a state-of-the-art recorder that captures 2 hours of conversation.
The CVR was probably the most important component in the investigation.
November 600
At 10 minutes to 4, the crew is told to change radio frequencies and get in touch with the controller monitoring their flight.
Change frequency to 125050.
Decimal 1, I'm sorry, 12505, good day.
Good day.
At this point, the Legacy jet is approaching Brasilia, but the crew never receives any instructions regarding their altitude.
Brasilia, November 600 X-ray Lima, level 370, good afternoon.
November 600 X-ray Lima.
When the Legacy overflew Brasilia at flight level 370, according to the flight plan, it should have been descending to 360, but air traffic controllers simply forgot to give the order to the Legacy to descend to 360.
The pilots would have assumed they were meant to stay at 370, 37,000 feet.
No airplane should ever change altitudes without receiving instructions from air traffic control.
To discover why controllers didn't give that crucial instruction, Colonel Ferreira takes a closer look at the technology used to monitor the traffic over Brazil.
So, can you call up the Legacy jet screen for us?
Na tela radar, nós recebemos a informação.
On the radar screen, we see the altitude, speed, and the transponder information of each plane.
Nós chamamos que é o código transponder da aeronave para a identificação de cada aeronave.
Each flight has an individual code assigned to it that helps controllers track it. Underneath that, there are 2 separate numbers. On the left, the plane's actual altitude. On the right, the altitude the plane is supposed to be at according to its flight plan.
So here, the number changes to 360.
As the Legacy jet passed over Brasilia, the number on the right, the planned altitude, changed. The computerized system automatically updated it. According to the flight plan, at this point, the plane was supposed to descend to 36,000 feet, 360.
To my knowledge, only Brazilian air traffic control system is using this kind of design. In other parts of the world, this update has to be done manually.
The computer changed a single number, which led to a critical error. Without much experience with the computerized system, the controller mistook the new planned altitude for the plane's actual altitude.
Só que o sistema mudou automaticamente, mudando o nível autorizado para...
The system changed it automatically from the authorized altitude to the planned altitude, which made the controller believe the Legacy was flying at 360.
Quando o outro controlador veio assumir o serviço, ele passou para ele o nível que estava no plano de voo 360.
Police investigators talk with the controller who was on duty when the number changed on the screen.
It was shortly after that I went on break. Lucivando relieved me.
He tells police about a critical mistake on his part.
You have 5 aircraft. The Legacy is at 360.
Before leaving, he handed his flights off to another controller, telling him where he thought the Legacy was flying.
I believe it was at 360, and that's what I told you.
When the new controller took over, the one being relieved gave him the Legacy's altitude information according to the flight plan, 360.
But the jet was actually flying 1,000 feet higher, right in the path of the goal flight. Colonel Ferreira studies transcripts of conversations on board the Legacy and finds that the crew was having their own difficulties during the flight.
How much longer, guys?
That's a good question, Ralph.
The crew seems unfamiliar with some of the jet's advanced systems.
Still working out the kinks on how to work this flight management system. Where's the one that gives us total time?
My impression is that the pilots were trying to learn their aircraft systems during the flight.
Investigators also uncover a breakdown in communications.
Brasilia, November 600 X-ray Lima, flight level 370, good afternoon.
November 600 X-ray Lima.
After a brief conversation between the Legacy jet and Brasilia ACC, Colonel Ferreira notices something extremely unusual. For almost an hour, the Legacy pilots don't talk to anyone on the ground.
Brasilia, November 600 X-ray Lima.
Palladino did try to get hold of ground control, but he couldn't get through.
Brasilia, November 600 X-ray Lima.
He then tried the backup frequencies listed on his navigation charts.
Brasilia, November 600 X-ray Lima.
November 600 X-ray Lima.
His only contact, a single garbled message.
6 smoke 5.
Sorry, say frequency one more time for November 600 X-ray Lima.
Both pilots and air traffic controller should have been more concerned of maintaining two-way contact all the time. This is their duty.